Chapter 8, The Zoomie Invasion PT-2. The air in the warehouse was thick with tension. Midnight stood near the window, eyes narrowed as they scanned the streets below. The others stood nearby, every one of them on high alert. "You sure they're coming tonight?" Chip asked, his paws shifting nervously. Midnight nodded without looking away from the window. "Trust me. I can feel it. They're close." Dexter, still half hiding behind a stack of pillows, peeked his head out. "Can't we just, I don't know. Pretend we're not home? That works for trick-or-treaters, Dex, not for psychotic. Hyperactive night terrors," Bella shot back. She was sitting on the couch, phone in hand, clearly trying to distract herself by doom-scrolling. Suddenly, there was a faint noise like the rapid clicking of claws against pavement. It was getting louder. Faster. Lola's ears perked up. "Do you guys hear that?" Chip froze, every muscle in his body tightening as the sound grew closer. It was as if an army of claws was sprinting at full speed towards their door. Midnight turned away from the window, their expression unreadable. "They're here." Before anyone could respond, the door burst open with a deafening crash, splinters of wood flying everywhere. In an instant, the Zoomies had arrived. A chaotic blur of fur, teeth, and claws tore through the entrance, moving so fast that it was hard to make out how many there were. Dozens of hyperactive beasts, their eyes wide with warehouse, bouncing off walls, overturning furniture, and racing through the carefully laid traps. Everyone to their positions. Chip barked, diving behind a stack of crates. The Gen Z dogs sprang into action. Lola sprinted toward one of the makeshift tunnels they'd set up earlier, her agile frame ducking and weaving through the obstacles with ease. Bella, somewhat less enthusiastically, dragged herself off the couch and took cover behind an overturned table. Dexter, predictably, screamed and bolted straight into his blanket fort, pulling the covers over his head. Midnight remained eerily calm, standing in the middle of the chaos like they were born for it. "Remember," they called out, "let them think they're in control." But controlling the Zoomies was like trying to catch lightning in a bottle. They were everywhere, zipping back and forth, barely pausing for a second. One of them, a scrappy-looking mutt with wiry fur, barreled past Lola, nearly knocking her off her feet. Another was gnawing on one of Bella's decoy squeaky toys, slobbering all over it while barking at the top of its lungs. "This is insane!" Chip shouted from his hiding spot. "How are we supposed to outsmart this?" Midnight moved swiftly, dodging a Zoomie that tried to nip at their tail. "Patience, Chip. We'll get our chance." Lola leaped onto a high platform, looking down at the madness below. "I thought you said they were fast but not smart." "I did," Midnight replied, effortlessly dodging another Zoomie. "But we've got to make the traps work for us. Wait for them to get tangled up in their own chaos." "Yeah, about that," Bella called from behind the table, "they don't seem like the tripping type." At that moment, one of the Zoomies, over-eager Spanny, slammed headfirst into a stack of crates, sending them toppling over. The dog yelped in surprise as it disappeared beneath a pile of cardboard boxes, its legs flailing comically. Chip's eyes lit up. "Did you see that? It worked." Midnight grinned. "Told you. They may be fast, but they're not invincible." Gradually, the traps began to do their job. The Zoomies, too focused on their own speed and, in the case of one particularly enthusiastic pug, launching themselves into a pit filled with pillows. "This is actually working," Lola shouted, a triumphant smile on her face as she watched another Zoomie get tangled in a mess of ropes. But the victory was short-lived. As the number of trapped Zoomies increased, their remaining pack members seemed to grow even more feral. Instead of tiring out, they became more focused, more dangerous. The wild, chaotic energy that had defined their initial attack was now channeling into something more aggressive. They weren't just running for fun anymore, they were hunting. "They're adapting," Midnight shouted, a rare hint of concern in their voice. "Stick to the plan. Don't let them corner you." Dexter, still trembling inside his blanket fort, peeked out just long enough to see one of the Zoomies, a hulking German shepherd, make a beeline for his hiding spot. "CHIPR," Dexter screeched. "Help." Chip glanced over, his heart pounding chaos until he reached Dexter and chin darted forward, weaving through the Dexter's fort, shaking from the force of the Intuit. Without thinking, "Chip, come on," Dexel Chip yelled, grabbing his friend's tail and yanking him out of the collapsing fort. The two of them barely managed to avoid the shepherd's snapping jaws as they bolted across the room. "Thank you," Dexter panted, his eyes wide with terror. "Don't thank me yet," Chip replied, glancing over his shoulder. "We're not out of this." Midnight, still in control of the situation, called out to them. Regroup. We're running out of space. The Gen Z dogs regrouped near the center of the warehouse, dodging the Zoomies who were now swarming with terrifying precision. Midnight. Lola called out. We need a new plan. Midnight's eyes narrowed as they surveyed the situation. We don't need a new plan, they said calmly. We just need to trigger the final trap. Final trap? Bella asked, her voice tinged with desperation. What final trap? Midnight's smirk returned. The one they won't see coming. Without explaining further, Midnight sprinted toward the back of the warehouse, where a large, unassuming pile of squeaky toys had been haphazardly stacked earlier. The Zoomies, distracted by the Gen Z dog's movements, didn't notice Midnight's approach until it was too late. With a single, fluid motion, Midnight pulled a lever hidden beneath the pile of toys. Suddenly, the entire floor beneath the Zoomies gave way, revealing a pit of foam blocks like a giant playpen for dogs. The Zoomies, too fast to stop themselves, barreled into the pit, their frantic barking replaced by confused yelps as they tried to scramble out of the soft foam. Chip blinked, stunned. You had a trapdoor. Midnight grinned. What? You didn't think LD let them tear up the place that easily, did you? Lola burst out laughing, finally relaxing as she watched the Zoomies struggling to escape the pit. Okay, that was pretty epic. Bella slumped onto the floor, her exhaustion finally catching up with her. Never running again. Dexter, still shaking from his close call, nodded fervently. I second that. As the last of the Zoomies were safely contained in a foam pit, Midnight crossed their arms and turned to the others. You did good, team. But don't get too comfortable. There's always another storm on the horizon. Chip, still catching his breath, grinned. Whatever it is, we'll be ready. But little did they know, the real storm was yet to come.